Welcome, 613 Golfers, to another episode of 613 Golfer Podcast. I am your host, Jeff Botter, publisher of Flagstick Golf Magazine. This week's show brought to you by our good friends at TaylorMade Golf and the all-new family of Sim2 golf clubs from TaylorMade. Check it all out at taylormadegolf.ca. Well, it seems that we've entered into yet another week of golf shutdowns, or I should say outdoor activity shutdowns. Golf is not the only outdoor activity that is currently shut down and feeling the effects of what's going on. But this is a golf show, and my listeners, for the most part, and my viewers, for the most part, are golfers. So we'll talk it from the golf angle. Now, obviously, some things happened last week with respect to Doug Ford and some statements that was made. That being said, I think it's safe to say that despite the fact that what was said by Mr. Ford in that press conference and how it got people sort of in an uproar, it was not the only thing that was said in that press conference. There were a lot of other things that were said regarding golf and outdoor activities with respect specifically to mobility. Now, I do not and I will not focus on Mr. Ford's comments because we all know the comments were a little bit generally stated, painting most of us with the same brush. And I think that he may have regretted that after he said it, but it is what it is. He can't come back and take it back and say, that's not what I meant, because nobody will believe him anyway. So, but what I do want to focus on, or what I do want to sort of get across, is that at no time during all of this debate has anybody really come out and said that golf wasn't safe. So we really need to stop with that argument, because I see a lot of the memes on social media, and a lot of things drawing comparisons to different other activities and saying, this is safe, but this isn't. It's not the safety side of it, I think, that we need to be focusing our attention on. It's the mobility side. And I, for one, was very much in favor of following the government guidelines, following the rules that were put in front of us for those very reasons, that if mobility is the issue, then we're supposed to stay at home as much as possible. And that means, even if the activity of playing golf is a safe activity, we shouldn't be doing it only because we shouldn't be leaving our immediate area to go and do something and increase risk. Now, before everybody starts piling on me about saying how, we only travel 5 minutes away, that's true in a lot of cases. And in a lot of cases, that's not true. We do travel fair distances to play golf. If somebody tells us that we're allowed to play golf, we're probably going to try to push the boundaries a little bit and say, well, I'm not just going to go, in my case, I can play a dozen golf courses within 15 minutes of my house. So yeah, I can stay close to home. Some people don't have that luxury and they are going to have to travel to play golf. Some people don't want to play the golf course that's closest to their house, and they're going to travel to play golf because chances are nobody's going to stop them from doing that. We see that with people going across the border into Quebec to play golf from Ontario. They're not all being stopped. I know that some people have told me stories of how they have been turned away, but most people that I've talked to that have gone across the border to play golf, they're not being stopped when they go across. So, there's always going to be these arguments on both sides, and there's no winning those debates. There's no winning those arguments. So, but the one thing that I think really, really bothers me is that golf is supposed to be about sportsmanship. The game is about sportsmanship. It's about ethics. And we're supposed to maintain that sportsmanship and that ethics with respect towards our playing partners and people within the events that we play in. Despite how much the game can be frustrating to us, we're not supposed to treat others with disrespect on the golf course. And I think what I'm seeing and what kind of upsets me is that people are so angry about not being able to play golf that I think for some people, yeah, it's about the exercise. They miss the exercise. Or they think they need the exercise and that golf is that outlet for exercise. And I agree. Nobody's arguing that golf is a safe, physically active activity to do that's good for you. That's a given. How can anybody argue that it isn't? What bothers me is these personal attacks. It's like, I can't even, sometimes I get kind of so ticked off about it that we're better than that, people. Okay. Even if we think that Doug Ford, is whatever, we want to call him whatever names we want to call him. We're so upset and so angry that, it's just this frustration is boiling over and we just can't take it anymore. I get that, but we need to be better than that. We need to make sure that the arguments that we're making are valid arguments. The statements that we're making on social media, these statements are, it's a small sampling. We look on our social media and we see all these golfers saying this and saying that, and it's a small sampling. There are hundreds of thousands of people that play this game, and they're not all on social media bashing the government and bashing Doug Ford and bashing the doctors. And like, come on, people, really? I get the anger level. I really, really do. But I think we can do it more respectfully than that. I think we can make our statements, post our pictures of somebody walking down the fairway and then a group of people in Toronto hanging out in a park, and draw the coalition between the two of those things, saying, okay, wait a second. It isn't about exercise. It isn't about the activity of golf. It isn't just about the safety of being able to play socially distant, with or without a mask, different households, whatever the case may be. What I'm starting to see is that it's the other activities that are taking place that require people to go somewhere to do something, whether it's the active TO videos and stuff that more recently have been seen, whether it's the Tulip Festival in Ottawa, where you see hundreds of people wandering around the parks downtown looking at the tulips and stuff. And yeah, it may seem innocent. It may seem like, they're just getting out and being active. They're just getting out and walking. Yeah, but they had to get there. And it's the same argument, I think, that people are seeing. It's that same argument that, well, we're trying to limit mobility driving to a golf course to play golf, so that we're not stopping at the gas station, stopping at the corner store, stopping and picking, we're not doing all this travel within the travel. So more or less a travel to a golf course and all the things that kind of go along with that. I think that's the argument that they're making, is it's a mobility issue. But if it's a mobility issue for golf, then it also is a mobility issue for taking your kids to the playground. And it's also a mobility issue for going and driving down to the Tulip Festival. It's also a mobility issue driving to the conservation area to go for a walk. And it's a mobility issue to group. I mean, the stuff for active TO has been kind of over the top. The number of people wandering around without a mask on in massive groups to be active. I think that's when now we're crossing a line for me personally. And this is me personally, but we're crossing a line for me personally, where I have argued that to this point, the arguments of whether we should be playing golf or not are important for people to get that message out there. They feel they need to say that. I understand that, and social media is a platform, and we want to use that platform to express our opinion. And I've been kind of on the other, on both sides of saying, yes, safety, all this kind of stuff, but yes, we have a mandate. We have an order from the government, and we're not in a dictatorship, people. This isn't communism that people spread on social media as well. That's not what this is. This is decisions being made that may be the wrong decisions, and that likely in some cases are the wrong decisions. And that's what this is. And not being able to necessarily go back on them and trying to say, there is some political posturing, I'm sure. I mean, that's the world we live in. Politics are part of it. I don't think that Doug Ford walks into a room and says, I don't care what you say, or you say, nobody's going to do any outdoor activity. I think that there's a method to the madness. It just might be that the method is not consistent enough across the board for people to look at it and go, yeah, I get it. That makes sense. You can't do that, but you can do that. If you're going to have a stay-at-home order, you stay at home. You go to the grocery store. Don't put memes up about people lined up at Loblaws or Costco, because it's groceries. We all have to get our groceries. We have to get foods. Not everybody has the ability to do curbside pickup. So, we have to do it other ways. So don't use that as an argument. But yes, the stuff that you're seeing now, that, these massive groups of people gathering, and, whether it's active TO or not, or whether it's the Tulip Festival, or whether it's going for a walk at the conservation area and there being, 50, 60 cars in the parking lot there. And, it's not just golf that happens. So you can't, that's the argument, is if you're not going to allow people to go to the golf course to golf, a safe activity, and your reason for not letting them go is because you're afraid of them congregating or doing too many things between there and the golf course, then you have to stop all the other stuff too. So I think that's really what the argument is. And then maybe that should be the focus of it. I saw something come across my desk from ClubLink, and at the end of the letter, I think ClubLink had sent to their members, at the end of the letter that they sent to their members about, what they were planning on doing and ramping up their messaging, they mentioned in that letter that they were going to be doing this in a respectful and professional fashion, and that people should send letters to their MPP and emails to their MPP, with respect to the bill that's being presented in provincial parliament. But they said to be respectful, and I think that's all I'm asking. I think that's all I'm saying, is that I get the frustration. Believe me, every day I'm living this. Day after day after day, I'm living it. I'm not just the social media stuff, the emails, the conversations I have with golf course operators and managers, the conversations I have with people in the political ring about this behind the scenes. I say behind the scenes, not in the public forum. Not that that's wrong to argue your point in the public forum. It's fine, but just do it respectfully. Treat people with respect. Doug Ford is not you don't call him names, hurtful. It's not, you're attacking him personally. He's not attacking you personally. He's not calling you something. He's not saying that you're something. And I'm using a lot of generalities here because I don't want to use the words that people have been saying in social media to describe him, but, things like calling him a communist. He's not. Okay. His members of his party are not. The doctors surrounding him are not. You're just throwing stuff out there that's hurtful, disrespectful, and that's not who we need to be as a society. What are we teaching our kids? That it's okay when you don't agree with something to lash out at the person that you don't agree with and be hurtful and disrespectful and attack them personally? Come on, you have to admit that we are better than that. Focus on the argument that needs to be made. And in this case now, the argument is not about safety. The argument is about mobility. So let's find the common ground that attacks the mobility angle, and let's respectfully, make sure that the government is aware that, hey, look, there's a lot of other stuff going on outside of getting my groceries and my essential things that I need to get and going to work. There's a lot of other stuff going on that people are jumping in their cars and driving to do, and doing in large numbers that are equally as safe to do as golf, but we can do those and not this. So I get that, and I think that's the angle that we need to take. So yeah, some of you won't agree with me, but do me a favor. If you don't agree with me and you want to send me an email, that's fine. If you want to reach out to me, DMing me on social media, that's fine. But you want to have a conversation with me about it in a professional and respectful manner, I'm happy to have a conversation, because most likely I'm not going to disagree with you, but I might not agree with you either 100%. I'm entitled to my opinion as much as you're entitled to yours. So I'm with you, golfers. I want golf back. I think it's a safe thing to do. I think the mobility issue thing we can handle if we handle it correctly and we police it correctly at the golf courses. We manage those parking lots and get people off the golf course and out of the parking lots as quickly as possible. I think we can handle all those other arguments about mobility too. I think we can work with this, but let's not be a-holes. Let's be respectful. Let's be golfers, and let's get this done properly. Okay, so that's all we're going to talk about on that. We got a really good show this week. We are going to take a quick break because we need to, and when we come back, we are going to find out how my guest this week took his career full circle. That when we come back. Stay with us.
To make sure the TP5 is the best ball for every shot in golf, we had some friends put it to the test.
Hydra.
Check.
Check. Check.
Check.
One hop and stop.
Out the short grass.
Out of no grass. Check. Low spinner.
Knockdown wedge.
Driver off the deck.
No matter the shot, there's one ball that's better for all.
Check.
Introducing the newly redesigned TaylorMade TP5 and TP5X.
Check.
The most complete ball in golf just got even better. Only from TaylorMade.
We're back. My guest today has taken a very different road to where he's gotten right now. Sometimes there's a lot of different paths that we can take. Sometimes we think this is the way we're going to take our career. We want to do this, and we have to take step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and so on. And we do that. Sometimes we take step 1 and step 2, and then step 3 just kind of goes out the window, and we end up, going off in this direction by about, a mile. But sometimes we circle back. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes a new path that we follow is better than the one we thought we wanted to take, and and there we end up. I mean, I myself, when I started out of high school, knew exactly what program I wanted to take in college. Getting into advertising and public relations. I wanted to work in an ad agency. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to write radio commercials. I wanted to write TV commercials. I wanted to work with big companies, and I wanted to design print ads and so on. That's what I wanted to do, and I was good at it, and I enjoyed it. So that's what I went to college for. And I came out of college, and next thing you know, I'm selling advertising for a community newspaper. I got to build some print ads, but I was more into sales. And as luck would have it for me, here I am doing this, obviously, which is far from working in an ad agency, but other branches of my company are, design and consulting, particularly within the golf industry. So I've designed logos for hundreds of golf courses. I design ads all the time, banner ads. I build websites, whatever the case may be. And no, this isn't a big sales pitch to hire me to do something. It's kind of my point is I wanted to go a certain direction. I did everything I could to go that direction. And then I just spun off and went another. Next thing you know, I'm in the golf industry. But the full circle side of that for me is that I circled everything back and used that golf industry to launch a magazine. And then from that, a design and consulting business, and so on and so on and so on. So sometimes we can get where we want to get or get where we intended to get in a lot of different directions. And that is the case with my first guest, or my guest this week. Please welcome to the show, the general manager of the Prescott Golf Club, Steve Martineau. Welcome to the show, Steve. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Awesome. Well, listen, Steve, it's kind of, I'm glad that we're talking. I mean, you and I, after there was a point over, the last number of years where you left the business and now you're back into it, but we've stayed in touch. We've talked, and I know you've talked to Scott a lot, even when you were not in the golf industry. I didn't think that, years later, we'd be sitting here having a conversation with you back in the golf industry. So I'm really glad that we were able to get together and have a chat. And the podcasts that we've been doing, a lot of the guests that we're bringing on, we've been talking about the path and the journey. And everybody's story is unique and it's different in how they got into the business and how they work through the business and to where they are today. And your story is a very unique story as well, in how you went from one point in the business to another point and then back into the business. So let's just start things off by talking about, let's get to know Steve Martineau a little bit more, and let's talk about how you got your start in the golf business. Why did you get started in the business and where it all began?
Sure. Well, I grew up in Prescott, and my father was a member of the golf club, and actually is one of the owners of the original 9-hole property. He had shares on it, and he introduced me to the game when I was probably 8 or 9 years old. And I actually have memories of coming home saying to my mom, I hit the ball in the air. I hit the ball in the air. And it was like, that's what hooked me, actually seeing the ball carry. And from that point on, my parents would get me to the golf course in the morning when summer came, and I'd get home at night. And I literally lived at the golf course, and just fell in love with the place, both the game and Prescott Golf Club. I felt like I was part of family, it felt like home. And when Tom Miller got hired in 1985, I got a job in the back shop, and I worked in the back shop for 4 years with Tom before I went down to college in North Carolina at Methodist University. And that didn't work out too well. I was homesick, wasn't big on practice. We didn't have a range here till 88. So I wasn't a big practice guy. So you get down there and the heat and the humidity in August is outrageous. Never experienced anything like it. Got homesick, came home, came back to work for Tama, and started as a member of the CPGA in 89. And from then I worked a bunch of different clubs around Ottawa, and then went to Iroquois in 99. I'd become the head pro at Greyhawk in 98 for 1 year, working with Club Link. Okay. And then got the job as GM and head pro at Iroquois in 99.
Cool. So when you went to North Carolina, was that on a golf scholarship to?
It was on a partial golf scholarship. Yeah, I had won the Ottawa City and District Junior in 88, and then finished 4th in the province. Strangely enough, the Quebec provincials that year were held in Renfrew, Ontario, which I always found weird. But I had to be down to school in August, so I didn't get to go to the Canadians that year. But I basically, there wasn't the recruiting that there is now. You kind of had to sell yourself. So I had put together the tape, old VHS tape, and some of my junior achievements. And they were one of the few schools at the time that had the pro golf management program. Them and Ferris State and the school in Conway, which is now Coastal Carolina. So I gone for a visit to Myrtle Beach and also to Fayetteville, the Methodist college. College at the time, now is Methodist University. And they had a very strong golf program. They won the national championship the year before I got there. And John McCullough was the individual champion the year before I got there. So it was a really good program. And again, I knew I wanted to be a golf pro, not a pro golfer, but a golf pro and work in the business. So that's the path I took. But like I said, after a year, I was homesick and came home and got into the CPGA.
Now, it does happen. That happens with a lot of guys that go down there. They end up, realizing they don't, it's not for them, or they get homesick. I mean, especially if you've never really been away from home at all for any length of time, that it's more comfortable. So it's so you ended up at the Iroquois golf course as the GM and head professional. Now, when you started at Iroquois, the clubhouse was on the opposite side of the little stream there, the inlet.
Yes.
And if I recall, the back tee was in that back corner there.
For the 10th hole is there across a little inlet, or way down at the south end of the property. There's about a 220-yard carry across the fairway.
I do recall that.
An amazing tee, an amazing hole. Unfortunately, the building was 120 years old at the time. The club wasn't in a financial position to fully renovate and do what they needed to. And they got an offer, the town, the course was owned by the township of South Dundas. And they got an offer on the land, and they would start paying good property taxes. So the decision was made to move the clubhouse onto the main part of the property.
So you had the opportunity, obviously, to be a part of the new clubhouse construction, and I know when you were there, we had a number of talks about the things that you were going through with the trying to get the right layout for it and position for it. And at one point, the clubhouse was actually even talked about being on the far end of the property. I'm not sure the holes, but is over on the way far away from where it is now on the other side of the golf course property, was it not?
Yeah, there were 3 different areas considered. One was right down by the beach, which would be just west of the 4th hole, which is a nice par 3 along the water. The idea being there, you'd be back down by the waterfront there was already a road going down there. But there was a lot of concern from the public about the excess traffic and the kids going down to the beach. So the other location was looked at was up by the school, a little bit higher land. We figured that might be good for drainage, but also putting it close to the edge of town would encourage people to come over for lunches. When we're out on that point, we were kind of forgotten about for restaurants and bar. It was a great location, but when you're so far out there, it's hard to be, in people's minds when they're looking for a quick place to eat. So after a lot of thought, it went back and forth, and they voted to go to where the highest point on the property actually is, which was out on the driving range. So they kind of adjusted the tee deck for the driving range and dropped the clubhouse there in the middle of the property, just to the right of number one.
Now, what were some of the things, Steve, going through that process as the general manager and as the head professional? What were some of the things that you'd go through that process of getting a new construction going and that kind of thing?
Well, first off, you had your clubhouse design, and I had my board that was heavily involved in it, and there were a lot of things that they ended up deciding on that I wasn't in favor of. And I think if they could go back and do it again, there might have been some changes made. We had to reroute some holes. Basically we dropped our parking lot right across the 9th fairway. So, we had our 9th green became our putting green, because again, we lose our putting green from the old clubhouse. So we had to build a new putting green, and then redesign our 9th hole to work it around the driving range to fit in the building, figuring out how you're going to deal with your carts. Also the drive in to the clubhouse from the road, that was where the maintenance building is. So it went from being a very lightly used road of 4 or 5 cars a day to being your main way to get out onto the property. So there was a lot of work to be done that way. And the township helped us in terms of road building and, doing a lot of the work that you'd had to pay private companies to come and do that would have been quite extensive.
Now, before we move on from the Iroquois Golf Club, there was see, you're laughing already because you knew this was coming. So there was a point.
I still have nightmares about this.
Oh my God. Well, I don't have nightmares about it. Believe me. I feel for the individual involved, but there's still a humorous side to that. So we were out playing up. Scott McLeod and I came down to visit with you, and we went out. The three of us went out to play a round of golf. I don't think Scott had ever played the golf course, and I had, but you were showing us the ropes, and there was a situation that occurred where we were hitting our tee shots, and you hit a tee shot, and I'm not sure which hole exactly it was.
I can fill you in exactly.
But I was going to say, I want you. I'm not going to tell this story. I'm going to let you tell this story. So, Steve, take it away.
Now, there's no doubt, Jeff, that I hit a bad golf shot. I'm not going to walk away from that. But the 15th hole at Iroquois heads back to the river. It's a par 5, reachable. And the wind, as you know, at Iroquois blows usually about 40 to 50 kilometers an hour from the west.
Yes, it does.
And I hit a nice drive down the middle. And a friend of ours, I'm sure you remember Jeff Ferguson, now in Kingston at Iroquois.
Yeah.
His father, Ross, and friend Elton Cassidy were coming off the 15th green, and I thought I might be able to hit the green, so I'll wait for them to finish. Well, unfortunately, to get to the 16th tee, you got to walk kind of back towards the 15th fairway. And I thought I'd go for it, so I got out my 3-wood, and I started it right at the green. I swear to God, I started it right at the green, and it started turning over, as you can remember. And you could just see the path they were on and the path the ball was going on. And I yelled 4, and Ross is like probably 6'3". He's taller than his buddy Elton. He looks up and sees the ball coming, and he dropped. And Elton took the ball in the back of the neck, dropped him like he'd been shot, like literally like an animal. I thought I'd killed him. Like I literally thought he was dead. He had a welt on his neck. You could see the dimples from the golf ball. And it literally took me about 2 months before I could get a 3-wood in the air. I literally would flinch at impact. To this day, like I'm kind of fortunate we're not golfing this week, Jeff, because I don't know if I could hit a 3-wood. I went out today to try and hit one after thinking about that story.
Oh my gosh.
I'll never forget it.
I mean, the good thing is, Steve, that we're able to laugh about it now and actually tell it as a story because, you know, he was hurt.
Oh yeah.
But it was nothing that a little redemption in the clubhouse afterwards.
I think it was two Molson X,
solve.
not two Molson X is what he asked for to be forgiven. So that was an easy one.
It's a good thing that you have you know, members at the golf course that were so easygoing and accommodating, Steve.
Absolutely. And again, I've played golf now for 42 years, and I think it's the only person I've hit with a golf ball. Thank God.
Oh my gosh!
I would never want to go through that again. Like where I hit him and the way he went down, I thought he was dead.
No, and I swear to God that everything was in slow motion. Because we were all, you hit it, and we're the three of us are watching the shot, and it's just like it's like it took forever to get there,
yeah.
And the four was coming out of your mouth like you yelled four, but it was more like,
yeah,
everything was moving in slow motion. It wasn't slow motion once the ball hit him.
No,
he dropped like a sack of bricks.
Show. It was almost like it was a taped TV show, and you could like put it in slow motion. And
yeah.
The ball started turning, and it was like, oh my God. You know, it was definitely one of the more memorable things that happened to Iroquois.
Well, you know, hey, I mean, we know that that's not the reason that you left the golf.
Oh, no, not at all. No.
It's an odd transition that we have now because, you know, the reality is that the Iroquois Golf Club you left Iroquois in, I want to say 2006, right? Yeah. So you left Iroquois in 2006, shortly after the incident.
I'm just kidding. Short, like a couple of years after.
So you left Iroquois and you got out of the business completely, and you actually went so far as to get your amateur status back, right? So tell me about that. You know, why did you leave the business? You know, what prompted that, and you know, getting your amateur status back too.
There was a lot that went into that decision, Jeff. First off, I got let go at the end of my contract. It wasn't I was fired or anything. It was just a decision that the board made at the end of my contract. They didn't feel like it financially afforded me. And so we parted ways. So, you know, for the better part of, they told me early September that I wouldn't be coming back. So for 2.5 months, you know, I searched, and I had pretty well decided I didn't want to leave the Iroquois area. You know, we've lived there since 1999. I'm still there today. Just love the community, love the people. It's a safe, small town, you know, very similar to Prescott. And I didn't want to go and uproot the family. In 2006, I would have had a 10-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter, and they were in school. My wife had a good job. I thought, I'm going to try and find something nearby. So I kind of left Cornwall to Kempville to Brockville. And as you know, there just aren't a lot of jobs in the golf business. So I saw an ad for that Procter & Gamble was hiring. I knew they were a good company. So I threw my name in, knowing nothing about manufacturing, nothing about production, and went in and interviewed. And by January of 2007, I'd been hired. And, you know, I made the decision that financially I was getting more money to start there than I was making at Iroquois. I would be on 12-hour shifts. So I had lots of time to golf in the summer. Had vacation in the summer, which was unheard of, you know, and benefits. Which
what the heck's vacation, Steve?
Yeah. So I'd kind of hit the jackpot in terms of like what you're looking for, you know, in a job. And so I went to work there, and I realized at that point, after a couple of years, that I really enjoy the competitive golf, but I didn't see myself going back into the industry and paying the CPGA fees just to stay active in a couple of CPGA events each year. So I requested my amateur status back. I think I had to wait 2 years for it. And I think I got it back in, I guess it would have been 2009, you know, right around that time. And I love competition, you know, and that's kind of what led me to do that, you know. But after 13 years of doing that, Procter & Gamble shifted operations from Brockville down to West Virginia. You know, we had the opportunity, if we wanted to go down with them or to Belleville, but I'd had enough of the 12-hour night shifts and day shifts and the flipping back and forth, the effect on the sleep, the effect on anxiety and depression that it had on me. And I just realized it wasn't for me. So, and again, I didn't want to uproot the family. You know, I love Iroquois, I love Eastern Ontario, and I didn't want to go to West Virginia. I didn't want to go to Belleville. So I was fortunate enough to get a severance package out of there last May. And I finished work there, I think May 13th. And I came to Bill here at the golf shop, said I'm available for the summer because you haven't opened yet. If you need any help, you know, just to keep myself busy and out of my wife's hair. And so I worked 3 days a week in the shop last year and just golfed and had the best summer of my life. You know, work and golf, and it was fun.
So now we're here. You know, I mean, we talk about some things in life go full circle, and you got your start in the golf business as a back shop guy at Prescott, working with Tom Miller.
Yeah.
And you went into the PGA of Canada. You did everything you needed to do. You became a head pro, became a GM, ran the gamut, got out of the business, get your amateur status back, and 2021, you're back at the Prescott Golf Course as a GM, not as a head pro. How did that come about? I mean, obviously, yeah, you worked there last summer, you know, doing what working in the shop and stuff. But how did you decide, you know, I'm going to come back into the golf business, but and I'm going to, you know, how did the whole thing with Prescott and the GM role, how did that all come about?
Well, the GM role had opened up in 2019, and I had applied for it, and I ended up finishing second in that search. You know, and that I was upset at the time. You know, I'm like, I know I'm the right person for this job. I think, you know, they should have chosen me. But when I look back on it, had I taken the job at that point, I wouldn't have got a severance package out of Procter & Gamble. I would have been walking away with nothing. You know, and again, I was on a severance package last May. You know, and worked here and got to know, like, I've known a lot of the members here for a long time, but there's a lot of new members that I hadn't. So I got to introduce myself to them, and they got to know me. And then at the end of this past year, I was notified that the GM's job was open again, and they wanted to make sure I was going to apply. So I went through the process. Again, it was trying to find full-time work. You know, I didn't necessarily want to go back into manufacturing if I didn't have to, or into 12-hour shifts. You know, so the opportunity presented itself, and I applied and went through the process, and was fortunate enough to get hired there in the first week of January. So it's a dream come true. It's the job that I've wanted all my life, you know, and I feel like I have a lot to offer the club. You know, I bleed PGC. When I wasn't here working, I'd still come and play here. You know, my father, up until 2012 when he died, was a member here forever. You know, his name is on the entrance stone. You know, we did in his honor. You know, it's like a part of me is here, always will be here. And the opportunity to come home and work here and lead the club, one I couldn't turn down. And, you know, I'm just very happy to be here.
No, it's such an awesome story. And that's the thing, like I said it right off the top there about, you know, finding the stories. There's a uniqueness to individuals in the golf industry throughout this region. And, you know, your story of, you know, going from where, you know, starting at Prescott and just going through everything that you went through and the roller coaster of things that you went through to get to where we are here in 2021, and for you to be the GM at the Prescott Golf Club where it all began for you is just it's an amazing story. I'm so, you know, I'm glad that that this happened for you. So what's the plan, Steve? Like, what's this is a you know, oddly enough, this is an odd and interesting year for you to start your career as the general manager at Prescott Golf Club, but despite the fact that even though Prescott is usually one of the first to open and was, as always, and then shutdowns happened, but you know, what's the plan at Prescott this year? What have you guys been up to during the downtime that is going to excite people about Prescott in the golf season to come, I guess?
Well, this year we've got a new superintendent, Warren Greenwell, who comes to us with experience at Pineview and recently at Camelot. And he's he's a really good superintendent, young, energetic, passionate, committed, everything you look for in a superintendent. And we have a good team of returning staff for him. And in the downtime, they've been able to get all the greens aerated, all the fairways done, all the fertilizing done, everything punched. They've worked on cart pass, bunkers. We do have limited staff right now. We're basically about half the staff of normal. But in addition to keeping everything cut, they have got those things out of the way that, could be a nuisance, if you were playing and you only had 9 holes open because you were aerating the other 9, so that's all done for the spring. We're in the process right now of installing a 10-station hitting deck on the back of our driving range tee. We have a very small tee deck here, and it's never been a strength of ours for a couple of reasons. We have a driving range that's limited, only about 190 yards to the end of the range, so we don't allow drivers. So every person that takes a shot is usually taking a divot, right? So it increases the wear and tear on the tee deck, and we don't have a big tee deck. And after a couple of weeks of our range being open, Warren said, "Steve, I can't grow grass on the highway. Like, it's just too busy, too much activity." And the board and I put together a plan, and so we've got this turf hound driving range 10 deck station going in. That'll be in and operational by July 1st. So that's going to be a big improvement. Always have good conditions to hit off of. We're also been working on our outer patio. We had a small upper patio just outside of our restaurant. And with COVID, obviously, and people not being comfortable or not being allowed to come inside to eat, we kind of had limited seating on our upper patio. So we've been in the process, and we'll have it open once Premier Ford allows us to have outdoor dining. We have a 1,000 square foot lower patio now, and we've bought some little bistro tables, nice umbrellas, and we've put a nice brand spanking new 2-inch oak bar top on one of our railings, some bar stools to kind of create nice atmosphere to hang out and watch the golf coming in on 18. So we've been working on that. We're still waiting on, we're getting 9 carts coming in. Again, as you, I imagine, would be aware, the golf club companies are having trouble getting parts and getting everything together. So the carts we were supposed to get in March and now promised for sometime in June. So that, and we've just been trying to stay busy. Myself, last couple of days I've been out trimming up trees around the clubhouse because I want to look good when people come back. We had just staying busy. And I've got a lot of people, members, green feeders, anxious. I was in on Friday morning in the office, and at 9 o'clock, somebody on some newscast said that they heard that golf was going to open. And within 15 minutes, I had 10 phone calls wanting to know if people could book tee times. And, so we know the demand is there. We just need the opportunity now. But when it happens, we'll be ready.
Oh, that's good. And I think that's if there is such thing as a positive, I think that's the one positive thing for the golf courses, knowing what's going to happen or what's going to transpire once you get the green light, how busy it's going to be.
Yeah.
And when it gets that busy, a lot of the stuff that you're talking about wanting to do on the golf course and even around the golf course becomes not even just a cumbersome activity because of the fact that you're trying to do it while there's golfers on the golf course and around the golf course. It's just the delegating the staff to be able to do that when once you open, there's no way that the staff can be working on building a patio.
No.
It can't happen. So taking advantage of, okay, people can't golf, we can't be open, but that doesn't mean that we have to be standing still. Let's be proactive and let's get our aerating done. Let's get these trees trimmed down. Let's build a patio so that since chances are we're not going to be allowed inside the clubhouse, that we'll build a bigger area for them to be outside so they can feel safe and that we can feel comfortable having them on the property after they're done playing their round of golf. Updating the carts, whatever the case may be. A golf course, repave the parking lot. I noticed a bunch of golf courses doing bunker work. Bunker work is something that's very difficult to do when you've got a full, and literally, to put this in perspective, golf courses 2 years ago were not full. I guess I'll put the air quotes full. There were lots of tee times available most of the times. I know numerous conversations talking to golf course operators about, what do we do to get people to golf after a certain time? That's not an issue now.
No.
The tee times, if you're not booking a tee time 5 to 7 days in advance, or as soon as you're allowed to, trying to book one 24 hours in advance, you're getting a cancellation. So
sure.
Doing the stuff on golf course once you're reopened is going to be next to impossible. Maintenance is about the only thing you're going to be able to do. So it's what you're talking about doing. That's exactly what, you expect to see golf courses do. And you guys are doing that.
Yeah.
So
it's funny. One of my staff, maintenance staff, I was out talking to him. He was finishing up on 18 the other day, cutting, and I said, how'd the day go? He goes, phenomenal. He goes, I got like all tees and collars done in like 5 hours. He goes, normally that's like a 12-hour job. He goes, it's awesome. I said, yeah, but we want it to be a 12-hour job. I'm really happy.
The sad part, I want it to
5.
take you 12 hours to do. I don't want it to take you 5. That's great. I'm glad that it took you 5 hours, but we need that to take you 12.
Exactly.
No,
and they understand, obviously, like without the golfers, people don't have jobs. So
exactly. I mean, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. It's whether it's June 2nd or if fingers crossed and the right decisions are made coming up, and we can respectfully get our point across to the right people, and something happens prior to June 2nd, then awesome. If not, well, then let's just be ready on June 3rd, if that's the case, when we're allowed to get out on the golf course, and let's be ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. Our golf course is in mint condition right now. Like, it's just, for this time of year, it's so lush, so green. Greens have healed perfectly. We're just itching to go. So
awesome. Well, listen, Steve, I am like super happy that we were able to have a chat, and I hope that those listening and those watching on YouTube, really got to get to know you, or got to know you a little bit better, and know your story, because it is an interesting story. It is a unique story, and it is a feel good story to see you get back to your roots at a spot where you're happy and excited to be. And Prescott, the golf club at Prescott should be extremely happy to have you there. I know you're doing an awesome job.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I think it's important. The one thing I'd say to people is that, and not like a life lesson for people, but I was working at Procter & Gamble, making more money with the pension, the benefits, and that. There is nothing replacing loving your job and loving getting up and going to work. I dreaded every single day over the last couple of years of having to get up and go in for shift work. And now, my day starts at 8 o'clock here. I'm often here by 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. I just get up and I want to get to work. I just love the business. I love that people are happy when they're here. I love being able to make people happy and, make their experience a positive one. So I'm really, really glad to have the opportunity.
Awesome. Well, I'm really glad, Steve, that we had this chance to chat, and welcome back to the golf business, buddy. It's good to have you.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Well, I'll tell you this, one of the great things about doing this podcast, that one of the things I've enjoyed a lot about doing these podcasts is learning more about the people in the industry that, we see every day. I mean, lots of people play the Prescott Golf Club, and they might not see Steve when he's there at being the GM. He could be in the office. He could be out on the course somewhere. He, could be doing just about anything. But, when you do go through and you see him, that you might remember seeing this podcast or listening to this podcast, and you learned a little bit more about this individual's journey to getting where he is. And in Steve's case, just taking the whole thing full circle. I mean, it's where it all began for him, working in the back shop. And there are a lot of stories like that, where someone gets their start in the back shop and they work their way up and end up, becoming the head pro or whatever of that club. But the path that Steve took, where, being in the business, going through all that, getting that head pro job, down the road at Iroquois, being the GM, and then boom, leaves the industry completely. And as we heard, for certain reasons, and then, does that for 13 years, I think. And then comes back into the golf business. And again, he explained the reasons why he came back in, but to come back in and to be able to end up back where it all began, and to just have that sense of family, that sense of feeling like you're home, like as he said. And great story, and just a super awesome, nice guy. Like, you're not going to meet much nicer people than Steve in the golf business. So when you're at Prescott and you get a chance to say hi to Steve, I know he'll appreciate it. And congratulations again, Steve. Great job, buddy. All right. Well, here we go. Moving through yet another episode. And as always, at this point during the 613 Golfer podcast, we like to help you out with your golf game a little bit. And we're going to spin it up a little bit. We're going to mix it up a little bit this week. And we're not going to go to the lesson tee and talk to Kevin Haime, but we are going to the lesson tee, and we are going to the Kevin Haime Golf Center, but we are going to talk to Jake Haime. And Jake's got a little tip for us. Jake is Kevin's son, and he is quite the teacher in his own right now. And we're going to head out to the lesson tee and see what Jake's got for us.
Hey golfers, Jake Haime here to help you with your wedge game. One thing that happens a lot when we're on our practice tee is we see people hitting full-length golf shots and neglecting those shorter swings that help them actually score, whether they're trying to save shots around the green or get close to the pin on those par fives that they got close to in two. A great way to practice scoring with your wedges is setting up a ladder drill where you're hitting golf balls. Having targets 25, 35, 45, 55 yards away from you, and then taking multiple shots consecutively to each target in an attempt to really dial in how long a swing you need to hit that distance. Just getting in front of a golf ball, having a target in your hitting area, and making repeatable length swings to consistent targets will really give you a sense of body control, a sense of how far you hit the golf ball, and make it a lot easier to save pars and make birdies on the golf course. Try it next time you're practicing.
Well, there you go. The kind of tip that you can probably work at, with golf being shut down right now, and probably the kind of thing that maybe you have enough room in your backyard, you can hit 25, 30, 45 yard, 50 yard shots. If not, maybe in a field somewhere where you have access, or it's an easy thing to practice when you're at a driving range like Kevin's place, or any driving range for that matter. It's an easy thing to practice when you're out on the course. Once you're out on the course, and I used to do that late evening kind of thing when I was a kid growing up down in Kingston. I wasn't really a kid when I was in Kingston. I was a teenager, but kid nonetheless. And I used to drop a bunch of balls and hit shots. I used to hit different irons from different distances. So I'd try and hit a bunch of 7 irons from 100 yards, and 7 irons from 120, and 7 irons from 130, and so on. I mean, there's lots of things, but it's a great tip from Jake, and something that you can work on. So thanks, Jake, and hope you learned something from that. Well, as always, we have our becoming very popular favorite hole in the 613 contest, and where obviously we have listeners and viewers on YouTube alike from around the 613, or who have played in the 613, send in their submissions for their favorite hole in this region. And this week, Nancy Wright from Orleans sent in her submission, and didn't have the picture herself of this one, but I have the picture, mainly because I took the picture. And it's of the 18th hole at Nation Golf Club in Plantagenet, which is east of Orleans. And I'm sure lots of people have played golf out at the Nation Golf Club. It used to be a tree farm. And what a great finishing hole. Different. I mean, not a lot of golf courses finish on a par 3, but Nation does. And that hole is downhill, like major drop down to the green, and there's a creek that runs right across in front of it. Difficult little finishing hole, various yardages there to play it from, but great selection, Nancy. Thanks very much for sending in that choice. And once again, we had lots of selections, but we can only pick one, only one. So we're going to send Nancy a couple of passes to play golf at Smuggler's Glen, and I hope she enjoys that once golf reopens and she gets to book a tee time down there. Now, if you're interested in getting in on the favorite hole contest, you know how to do it. Send your submissions to jbotter@flagstick.com and send along the course, the hole number, and the yardage if you have it, but I can look that up, and a picture if you have a picture that you've taken or that you'd like to submit with it, and we'll post that up on the YouTube feed when we post it. So thanks for that, Nancy. Well, as always, that's time in the show once again when I've got to say goodbye. That is it for me for this week. Thanks to Steve Martineau from the Prescott Golf Club for spending some time with us and letting us get to know him a little bit more and his story and his journey. Thanks to Jake Haime this week for our lesson. And thanks to our sponsor, TaylorMade Golf. Don't forget to check out all of the TaylorMade lineup, including the all-new Sim 2 family of golf clubs at taylormadegolf.ca. And while you're at it, don't forget to visit us at flagstick.com. You can check out every single episode of the podcast, and you can also check out every single episode of Tee Talk Podcast, which is done by my good friend and an associate publisher of Flagstick Golf Magazine, Scott McLeod, and his co-host, Stefan Tiedorf. You can check that out at flagstick.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can also check us out on YouTube. We do encourage that. We love to get new subscribers to the channel. As I've said before, there's a lot of things we do visually with the YouTube channel that we obviously cannot do with the audio feed. So check us out on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell to make sure that you don't miss a single episode when we drop it. Well, let's make sure we get the right message out there. Let's do it respectfully. Keep the messages respectful, and say what you want to say. Get your point across, and hopefully, at some point or another, maybe before the June 2nd deadline, we're out there playing golf. If not, then let's just be patient. Let's keep the right messaging out there, and we'll get golfing, and it'll happen sooner than you think. So. This has been the 613 Golfer podcast presented by TaylorMade Golf, and I have been your host, as always, Jeff Botter, publisher of Flagstick Golf Magazine. Have a great week, everyone, and always remember, go for the stick.